Dragon Emperor's Son Chapter 351 to Chapter 360. David frowned slightly when he saw this scene. What is this? At this moment, Ye Yong's body exudes a stronger aura than that of Ye Fengchun. David, be careful, he is the Golden Bell. Gu Ling'er saw the golden bell hood that Ye Yong was using, and immediately shouted to David in shock. Ye Yong laughed loudly, "Boy, today I'll let you taste the power of the golden bell hood. Even if you have the power to crack rocks, you can't touch me." "Really? Then I really want to try it." After David finished speaking, he punched Ye Yong's chest with one punch. That Ye Yong didn't dodge, looked at David with a bit of disdain on his face. Thump! After a clear sound like the ringing of a bell, Ye Yong didn't move at all, but David felt his arm numb. "Ha ha ha, ha ha ha." Ye Yong laughed arrogantly, his eyes full of provocation. Seeing this, David raised the corner of his mouth slightly. "It's interesting, then try my punch." After David finished speaking, the spiritual power in his body began to run wildly, and then all converged on David's fist. At this time, David's fist also began to emit a faint light. In the end, the light turned out to be like a dazzling little sun, and the person who lit it did not dare to look directly at it. The smile on Ye Yong's face instantly froze, and his mouth widened involuntarily. "This? What is this?" David did not answer him, but threw a punch. Boom! After a thunderous sound, the light on David's fist disappeared. Looking at Ye Yong again, he stood there motionless. The faint light on his body slowly dissipated, and the whole person was like a puppet. "Brother!" The two guys from the Iron Gate Pavilion who followed Ye Yong hurried forward and called Ye Yong softly. Puff! Suddenly, Ye Yong spurted out a mouthful of blood. The blood was mixed with fragments of internal organs, all of which were sprayed out. Pfft! Ye Yong's huge body fell heavily on the ground, his eyes were wide open, and he was no longer breathing. When the two people from the Iron Gate Pavilion saw this, they turned their heads and ran away in fright, not daring to stay for another moment. Gu Ling'er was also stunned for a long time before she could react, and panic flashed on her face. "You, how did you kill him?" David smiled and said, "Didn't you tell me to kill him? Why do you want to cheat now?" "Oh, what I just said was angry. Why did you really kill him?" Gu Ling'er looked panicked, stepped forward and pulled David up and said, "Let's go quickly, I'm afraid the people from the Iron Gate Pavilion will take revenge." "It's gone." Gu Ling'er pulled David away, and the meal was not finished. "We haven't eaten yet, I'm hungry now." Sitting in the car, David asked Gu Ling'er, who looked panicked. "Go to where I live, let me cook some noodles for you. You are too reckless, you really killed that Ye Yong." Gu Ling'er sighed. "You asked me to kill it anyway, I don't care about the rest," David said indifferently. "You?" Gu Ling'er's face flushed with anger, but she couldn't refute it. Gu Ling'er drove David to a community, and then took David to where he lived. The place where Gu Ling'er lives is very small, it is a one-bedroom and one-bedroom, and it is still rented. Although the place is small, it is very clean, and as soon as you enter the door, there is that kind of fragrance unique to girls. "Sit down first, I'll find out if there's anything else to eat at home." After Gu Ling'er got home, he started to prepare for cooking. David sat bored in the living room and looked at Gu Ling'er, who was busy in the kitchen. David felt very strange. With Gu Ling'er's identity, how could he be able to rent a house by himself? Even if you don't want to rely on your family's relationship, your family always has a house, right? It is really impossible to buy a larger and more comfortable house, and there is always that kind of strength. You must know that Gu Wenchen spent a lot of money in the small courtyard in Horrendal, plus the antiques at home, just anyone. It's enough for this Gu Ling'er to spend. Soon, Gu Ling'er cooked noodles and fried 2 dishes and served them up. David smelled the smell, and his appetite suddenly increased. "I didn't expect your kung fu to be not that good, but cooking is pretty good." After David took 2 bites, he praised Gulinger. But Gulinger's face turned cold. You can't do Kung Fu, I'm the champion of our group. Okay, your Kung Fu is awesome. David was speechless for a while, but he was still the champion after these 2 moments. He didn't know how much water was in it. It must be Li Xiaoyi who looked at the old face and let it go. Gulinger glared at David, but then said curiously, I really didn't see that your Kung Fu is so strong, who did you learn it from? Nonsense, can I destroy the Wei family if I'm not strong? David immediately said proudly, I'm self-taught, with good talent, there's nothing I can do. Cut. Gulinger gave David a blank look, she didn't believe what talent David said. Isn't everyone in your provincial capital looking down on you detectives? David asked strangely. David's words were like a needle stabbed into Gulinger's sore spot, and Gulinger suddenly said with a low face, the provincial capital is full of martial arts, there are martial arts halls everywhere, and there are more than many martial arts families. Come on, there are more martial Dao families, so there will be more disputes. We can't manage it at all, and sometimes, we can't control it. These martial Dao clans all have martial Dao alliance, and the disputes between martial Dao clan are also decided by martial Dao alliance. Or mediate. Gulinger's words made David suddenly interested. Martial arts alliance? Is there such a thing in the provincial capital? In the past, David was just an ordinary person, and he couldn't get in touch with these at all, so it was normal not to know about the martial arts alliance. Of course, the martial arts alliance is composed of the 4 major martial arts families in the provincial capital, in order to restrain each other, and to deal with the challenges of martial artists from other places. Who are these 4 martial arts families? David continued to ask. The Zhang family, the Wu family, the Sun family, and a Chifengtang. Gulinger replied. Chifengtang? Why is there a gang in there? David became more and more curious. Although this Chifeng Hall has not developed for a long time, its strength is very strong, especially their hall master Chifeng. I heard that he is about to reach the strength of a master of internal strength. Don't look at this Chifeng is a woman, but she is cruel and ruthless. In a short period of time, Chifengtang has been developed and has a place in the martial arts alliance, but this Chifeng has never done anything that hurts the world. Gulinger said, a bit of admiration flashed in her eyes. It seemed that she admired this Chifeng very much. Speaking of which, this Chifeng is still a hero in women's middle school. David smiled slightly, but David also admired this kind of female man from the bottom of his heart. Of course, many people in the provincial capital refer to Chifeng as a female bodhisattva, and many rich and powerful sons and brothers use their power to bully others. As long as they encounter Chifeng, they are obedient and honest, and no one dares to provoke them. This Chifeng has taught him several times. Because of this, Chifengtang and Jiang's family are very at odds. Gulinger said, suddenly his eyes lit up, if you can know this Chifeng, maybe there is hope for your life. As long as Chifeng comes forward, if the Jiang family wants to kill you, you will have to weigh it. Don't you want me to be killed by the Jiang family? How can I say that I am also a murderer and wiped out the entire Wei family? David looked at Gulinger with a playful face and asked. Of course I don't want to. If you die, Sonia will be very sad. I don't want to see my good friend sad, and the Wei family should be damned. Gulinger was in her own home, so she had no scruples and dared to say anything. Ha ha ha, don't need that Chifeng, it's not that easy for the Jiang family to kill me. David laughed, but he didn't take the Jiang family into his heart at all. The provincial capital, the Jiang family. Jiang Zhengzhong was sitting on the sofa with a towel on his head. The blow of losing his daughter gave him a headache now. Dad, then Li Xiaoyi is back. Jiang Wenjie walked to Jiang Zhengzhong and said. Did someone bring it? Jiang Zhengzhong closed his eyes slightly, but did not open them. No. Jiang Wenjie shook his head. Since the Guardian Pavilion is useless, let's do it ourselves. Is that David still in Horrendal? Zhang Zhengzhong asked. Not anymore. Zhang Wenjie replied. What? Zhang Zhengzhong suddenly opened his eyes and threw the towel on his forehead. Did that kid run away? Did Li Xiaoyi let him go on purpose? If so, I can't spare him. Dad, that kid wasn't in Horrendal, but he probably didn't run away. It's very likely that he came to the provincial capital. When Li Xiaoyi came back, there was no Gulinger by his side, so I suspect that Li Xiaoyi let that Gulinger quietly take the boy with him. David came to the provincial capital because he didn't want our Zhang family to do it. Zhang Wenjie analyzed carefully. Hey, kill me to pay my debts and pay my debts, no one wants to stop me, he is just a pavilion owner, and he still wants to stop my Zhang family. Zhang Zhengzhong said with anger, Wenjie, send someone to arrest me immediately. Stay at Gulinger and ask her if she knows where David is. I'll make arrangements now. Zhang Wenjie finished speaking, ready to turn around and leave. Wait a minute, how are the Wei family's properties now? Has anyone done it? Zhang Zhengzhong stopped Zhang Wenjie and asked. Not yet, but there are already many families that are ready to move, and many partners with the Wei family have stopped cooperating. In addition, many senior executives of the company are beginning to panic, and they seem to be looking for a way out. Zhang Wenjie said with a worried look. A huge business family, without people, will soon fall apart. You let out the wind and say that all the properties of the Wei family have been taken over by the Zhang family. What was before and what is now, will never change, first stabilize people's hearts. Zhang Zhengzhong said with a sigh. Although the Zhang family is strong, it is a martial Dao family after all, and they have no experience in business operations. I understand. Zhang Wenjie nodded. Zhang Zhengzhong lay back on the sofa again, and then waved his hand to let Zhang Wenjie leave. Not long after Zhang Wenjie left, the housekeeper of the Zhang family walked in. Seeing Zhang Zhengzhong resting, he hesitated for a while, but finally did not dare to disturb Zhang Zhengzhong. But just when the housekeeper was about to turn around and go out, Zhang Zhengzhong said, Old Lu, what's the matter? Zhang Zhengzhong still closed his eyes, but he knew who came in. Master Bohuo from southwest Suanya Valley is here. Butler Lu said respectfully. What? Zhang Zhengzhong jumped up from the sofa, and the towel on his forehead fell to the ground. Hurry up and invite Master Bohuo in. No, I'll go meet you in person, quickly change my clothes. Zhang Zhengzhong urged the housekeeper with an anxious look on his face. The housekeeper was so frightened that he hurriedly picked up the clothes and put them on for Zhang Zhengzhong, then followed behind Zhang Zhengzhong and hurriedly walked out of the room. At this time, outside the Zhang family villa, an old man with a fairy style and a bone is standing quietly. Master Bohuo, you have sinned, and the servants let you wait outside. It's just damn, I will punish them severely. When Zhang Zhengzhong saw Master Bohuo, he immediately greeted him respectfully. Zhang Gong is polite, there is nothing wrong with the servant, why is there any need to punish him? Master Bohuo smiled faintly and said with an unfathomable look. Everyone is not confused by the master quickly invites. Zhang Zhengzhong made an inviting gesture himself and invited Master Bohuo in. When Master Bohuo entered the living room, Zhang Zhengzhong actually poured tea and water himself, and he was very respectful to that Master Bohuo. Master Bohuo nodded, very satisfied with Zhang Zhenzhong's attitude. Master Bohuo, I don't know if you came here this time, can Master Qiang Gu have an explanation? Zhang Zhengzhong asked tentatively. Ha, about the matter of Duke Zhang, the owner of the valley has already told me that I came here in person this time, and I deliberately refined the life-sustaining pill for Duke Zhang to ensure that Duke Zhang was over 100 years old. Master Bohuo laughed. Thank you so much, Master Bohuo, you've been exhausted all the way, you'd better rest first. I have already ordered the preparation of the medicinal materials for the medicinal pill, and it should be ready in the next 2 days. Zhang Zhengzhong said excitedly. Master Bohu nodded, got up to go to rest, but just took 2 steps, suddenly looked back at Zhang Zhengzhong. I don't know if Zhang Gong knows my preferences. I know, Master Bohuo's preferences, I understand, I have already prepared it for Master Bohuo. Zhang Zhengzhong nodded again and again. Ha ha ha, that's fine. Master Bohuo was taken to rest, and Zhang Zhengzhong looked at the housekeeper and said, Old Lu, go and send the girl you recruited to Master Bohuo, there are 2 girls every day, don't forget, and make sure that everyone is a virgin body. Got it, sir. The butler nodded and left. Gulingur's home. David was resting on the sofa, and Gulingur went out to meet Li Xiaoyi. How David would deal with it, no one was sure now, but Gulingur didn't want to hand David over to the Zhang family. Just when David was lying down and resting, suddenly the door rang, and someone was holding the key to open the door. David thought that Gulingur was back, so he didn't care. But who knew that after the door opened, a guy in his 20s who wore glasses came in. When the boy saw David lying on the sofa, he was stunned. Who are you? Why are you here? The boy looked at David in surprise and asked. David was also a little panicked. He thought the boy was Gulingur's boyfriend, and hurriedly said, I'm just taking a break here for a while, nothing else. You are a big man, you are resting in my sister's room, and you say nothing else? How did you get in? I tell you, my sister is a detective. If you dare to enter her house, she will kill you. The boy threatened David, picked up the broom beside him, and looked at David vigilantly. When David heard it, it turned out to be Gulingur's younger brother, and he was relieved immediately. Looking at the boy's nervous appearance, he couldn't help but smile. You are Gulingur's younger brother. I was brought back by your sister, she has something to do, let me wait for him at home. You don't have to be nervous, I'm not a bad person, your grandfather Gu Wenchen, we also know each other. When the boy saw that David knew even his grandfather, he was obviously not a thief, so he put down the broom and relaxed his vigilance. Are you my sister's boyfriend? The boy glanced at David. My sister has long been asked to find a boyfriend at home, but she just doesn't agree. It turned out to be secretly looking for a long time ago. What's your name? What do you do? Do you have any money? The boy asked David like he was investigating the household registration. David was stunned for a moment, trying to explain clearly that he was not Gulingur's boyfriend, but at this time Gulingur had already returned. Gu Feng, what are you doing here again? Gulingur looked at her younger brother and said with an unhappy expression. Sister, why don't you say anything when you find a boyfriend, so that I can give you advice? Seeing that the guy is dressed in ordinary clothes, he doesn't look like a rich man. Gu Feng glanced at David, and then said with some contempt. Gulingur blushed and shouted at Gu Feng, shut up, this is my friend, not my boyfriend, don't talk nonsense. Take it down, it's not your boyfriend, how can you bring it home? Gu Feng gave Gulingur a white look. I entered your house, but you are very reluctant, how can you let ordinary friends in? I don't care if he is or not your boyfriend, you first lend me some money to spend, I'm out of money. Neither do I. How many times have you borrowed money from me? Gulingur shook her head directly. Sister, if you don't lend me the money, I'll tell the family that you have a boyfriend. Gu Feng said. He even took out his mobile phone and took a few pictures of David, then proudly said, I want to let everyone in the family will give you advice and see how your boyfriend is doing. Delete the photo for me, I said he is not my boyfriend, just an ordinary friend. Gulingur wanted to take Gu Feng's mobile phone, but Gu Feng wouldn't give it to him. The sister and brother were chasing after him in the room. David watched from the side with a deep envy on his face. He sometimes thought that if he had men and sisters, he would definitely spoil them. Okay, you deleted the photo, I'll give you the money, tell me, how much will it cost this time? Gu Ling'er panted and said to Gu Feng. In fact, with Gu Ling'er's strength, it is very easy to take the mobile phone from Gu Feng's hand. How can Gu Ling'er also practice? It's just that Gu Ling'er doesn't want to really do anything to her brother. Gu Feng smiled slightly, not much, I want 100,000. How much? 100,000. Gu Ling'er suddenly exclaimed, do you know how much my salary is per month? You dare to ask for 100,000? I don't. If you don't have it, my brother-in-law can do it. Gu Feng finished speaking, looked at David and said, brother-in-law, do you have any money? Lend me 100,000 first. If I can't pay, then I will take the dowry gift you gave my sister. Buckle inside. When David heard this, he immediately laughed. He felt that the younger brother of Gu Ling'er was quite funny. I have it, open the mobile phone receipt code, and I'll scan it for you. David took out his mobile phone, don't borrow it, I'll give it to you. Given the relationship between David and Gu Wenchen, giving his grandson 100,000 is nothing. Really? Gu Feng was stunned. Of course. David took a look at Gu Feng with his mobile phone, I'm not short of 100,000. For the current David, 100,000 is really a drizzle. Looking at the balance on David's mobile phone, Gu Feng was instantly stunned, and quickly hugged David excitedly, brother-in-law, you are my brother-in-law. If my sister changes her boyfriend in the future, I will recognize her and you too. This sister-in-law. Gu Ling'er looked at Gu Feng with a blushing face, and then said to David, David, don't give him money, he knows how to spend money everywhere. However, David still transferred 100,000 to Gu Feng, which ruined Gu Feng's music. Brother-in-law, let's leave contact information, and I will take you out for a drink in the evening. I am familiar with you in the provincial capital, and when it comes to my ancient style, no one does not know me. Gu Feng added David's contact information and ran away excitedly. Gu Ling'er sat on the sofa helplessly, and looked at David with some complaint, who asked you to give him money? 100,000 yuan, not much money. David said with a smile. This guy is going to fool around when he gets money. That's why my parents control him and don't give him money. Gu Ling'er sighed, but then looked at David, I'll give you back the $100,000, I hope this guy doesn't talk nonsense outside. Gu Ling'er is now worried that Gu Feng is talking nonsense, saying that David is his boyfriend. If this is passed on to Sonia's ears, how can she see Sonia? It's too embarrassing. You don't need to pay it back. The 100,000 yuan will be used as the money for me to eat and rest at your house. I can't eat and sleep at your house for nothing. After David finished speaking, he picked up an apple and ate it. Are you still going to sleep at my house? Gu Ling'er gave David a blank look and continued, I just discussed with the pavilion owner and will not hand you over to the Zhang family for the time being, but now the Zhang family must be looking everywhere. I will find a small hotel for you to stay temporarily, and then I will find an opportunity for you to get acquainted with that Chifeng, so maybe you can be saved. David was speechless for a while, seeing that Gu Ling'er had been trying to save him, but this also moved David a little. I think with the strength of the Zhang family, you can be found in any hotel you live in. It's better to be safe here with you. David smiled lightly. Gu Ling'er looked at David with a look of vigilance, don't you want to do something to me? I tell you, I won't be sorry for my friend. If you really dare to touch me, I will tell Sonia. David looked helpless, you think too much, I only have Sonia in my heart, so I won't do anything to you, don't worry. Then you can stay on the sofa temporarily. After Gu Ling'er finished speaking, she went back to her room to change her clothes. In the evening, Gu Ling'er prepared the meal and ate with David. At this moment, the ancient style came. What are you doing here again? Gu Ling'er frowned when she saw Gu Feng. It's so fragrant. Gu Feng looked at the food on the table, and was not polite. He picked up the bowl and chopsticks and started to eat. Food? Will ordinary friends stay together at night? Shut your stinky mouth, David and I are ordinary friends. Gu Linger gave Gu Feng a fierce look. After eating, Gu Feng picked his teeth and said to David, "Brother-in-law, I will take you to play around at night, and let you know my friends by the way. If you have something to do in the provincial capital in the future, just say a word." David was about to agree, but Gu Linger said directly, "No, he is not allowed to go anywhere." "Sister, you're not married yet, why are you so strict? A tigress like you, be careful no one wants you." Gu Feng stuck out his tongue. "I beat you to death." If Gu Linger is angry, he will fight Gu Feng, and Gu Feng hides behind David. "I'll go out for a while, it'll be all right." David knew that Gu Linger was afraid that the Zhang family would meet him. Seeing that David was willing to go out, Gu Linger didn't stop him. After going downstairs, David got into Gu Feng's car, a BMW. He didn't know how many hands he had, but Gu Feng was very excited to drive. On the way, Gu Feng picked up a girl. The girl's slender and big push was exposed outside. She was very revealing and dressed very enchantingly. At first glance, she didn't look like a girl from an ordinary family. After the girl got into the car, she glanced at David in the back seat, raised her eyebrows and said, "Handsome guy, what's your name?" "My name is Lily, are you interested in discussing it in depth?" As Lily spoke, she stretched out her hand and touched David's face, but was dodged by David and avoided. "Ha ha ha ha, it's quite shy, isn't it a place?" Lily giggled. "Don't be ridiculous, this is my brother-in-law." Gu Feng glared at the girl, and then followed David with an embarrassed expression, "Brother-in-law, Lily, she is like this, she likes to joke, don't mind." David smiled and asked, "Your girlfriend?" "Ah," Gu Feng snorted, but did not answer David's question clearly. But when Lily heard it, she immediately quit. "Gu Feng, you are a BA5TARD, my mother is not your girlfriend, and besides, you can't support me, your parents are very stingy, they won't give you a penny. You still want to find a girlfriend?" Lily's words made Gu Feng embarrassed, but she didn't know how to refute it. David looked at the ancient style and smiled helplessly, finally knowing why his parents didn't give him money. Soon, David and the others arrived at a Phoenix bar. There were countless luxury cars parked in front of the bar, and these antique BMW cars could only be placed far away in the corner. "Brother-in-law, this is the best bar in the provincial capital. I'll take you in here in a dashing style." After Gu Feng put the car away, he said to David excitedly, "Don't call me brother-in-law, I'm not your brother-in-law, just call me Brother Chen." David saw that this ancient style was too close to a brother-in-law, and felt that it would be better for him to remind him. What kind of society is this, and it's still so feudal? Aren't you my brother-in-law sooner or later? I'm just getting acquainted with it in advance, don't be so feudal, come in quickly. Gu Feng didn't care and dragged David into the bar. "Gu Feng, did your kid go out to pick up money and come to such a place to play?" After Lily walked into the bar, she followed the ancient style with a playful look on her face. "I didn't find the money, but my brother-in-law has. Let me tell you, my brother-in-law's mobile phone has a balance of more than 10 million. I have seen it." Gu Feng followed Li Li in a low voice, and Li Li's look at David suddenly changed. Although Gu Feng's voice was very small, David still heard it clearly. Seeing this guy showing off everywhere, David was a little speechless. After finding a place to sit down, Gu Feng directly ordered 2 bottles of Remy Martin. One bottle of this wine costs hundreds of thousands, but now that David is here, Gu Feng is not afraid at all. Then Lily sat directly next to David, kept rubbing against David's figure with her body, and said with a tender expression, "Mr. Chen, it looks like you are here to play for the first time? But don't do it. You're nervous, I'm with you, if you don't understand anything, you can ask me." Lily's hands kept touching David's body, which made David frown and moved his body to the side. Lily, I said it all, that's my brother-in-law. Besides, I paid to call you out because I asked you to accompany me, so hurry up. Seeing Lily like that, Gu Feng immediately said angrily. Cut, 5,000 an hour, I really thought that the old lady cares, the big deal won't charge you, and the old lady will accompany whoever she likes to accompany. Lily rolled her eyes at Gu Feng, but didn't go to accompany him. From Lily's point of view, people like David are upstarts from the countryside. They suddenly have money, but they don't know how to spend, so they are overwhelmed when they see the big scene. This kind of person is best to hang, as long as he takes the bait, he will definitely be able to squeeze it all, and not a penny will be left, so this Li would rather push the ancient style and sit with David. This time, the antiquity was suffocating, and after the wine came up, I drank it. Isn't this young Master Gu? How come you have the money to come to such a place? Are you still drinking Remy? At this time, a few sloppy guys came over, and one of the young people wearing anima said in surprise after seeing the ancient style. Gu Feng glanced at the young man, and said with some displeasure, "Ni Wei, I have nothing to do with you here, don't bother me." Gu Feng was in a bad mood at first, but when the young man said it, he was of course even more unhappy. But who knew that Ni Wei was stunned for a moment, then laughed loudly and said, "Young Master Gu is really good at it, how dare you talk to me like this?" Ni Wei said, seeing Lily on the opposite side, so he continued, "No wonder our young Master Gu has become more capable today, it turned out to be an appointment with the goddess in his heart. Do you show up in front of you?" After he finished speaking, Ni Wei pulled Lily over, put a hand on Lily's waist and said, "Miss Lily, how about playing with this young master? Ni Gongzi, I have a guest now, I can't get away from it, I will accompany Ni Gongzi for a few drinks another day." Lily said with an apologetic smile. She finally met a good child like David, but she couldn't let it go easily. Snapped. But who knows, that Ni Wei slapped Lily's face, "Damn, even TCH dares to bargain with me." Lily's face was flushed from being beaten, her eyes were full of grievances, but she didn't dare to speak. At this time, David seems to have not seen it. David will not come to any hero to save the beauty for a young lady. David can't, but it doesn't mean Gu Feng can't. Lily is the goddess in his dreams. Now that he sees his goddess being beaten, how can Gu Feng endure? Ni Wei, you fucking let Lily go to me, what's the point of hitting a woman? Gu Feng grabbed the bottle and stood up, roaring at Ni Wei. Bang! As soon as Gu Feng's words fell, a follower behind Ni Wei gave Gu Feng a hard kick. "Boy, is this the tone when talking to Viagra?" Gu Feng frowned, his face was ugly, he gritted his teeth and said, "Paralyzed, I will kill you." Gu Feng grabbed the wine bottle and smashed it hard on Ni Wei's head. The hero saves the beauty, now is the time to express yourself, so Gu Feng went out of his way and just wanted to leave a good impression in front of Lily. But who knew that Gu Feng had just waved the wine bottle out, and before it hit that Ni Wei grabbed his wrist, grabbed the wine bottle, and smashed it at Gu Feng without any hesitation. This time, Gu Feng was frightened, and stood dumbfounded, letting Ni Wei smash over. Seeing that the wine bottle was about to hit Gu Feng's head, David, who had not moved all the time, suddenly stood up, grabbed Ni Wei's wrist, and with a slight force, Ni Wei grinned in pain, and the wine bottle in his hand fell on the ground. On the ground. They all come out to drink and play, for a dusty woman, it's not worth it. David let go of Ni Wei and protected Gu Feng behind him. In any case, Gu Feng is also Gu Wenchun's grandson, and David can't die without saving him. Ni Wei looked at his blue wrist and said angrily, "Dude, who are you? Sign up." "Master Ni, this guy is Gu Feng's brother-in-law, a nouveau riche." Lily glared at David fiercely and said. David's remarks about a woman of the past have annoyed Lily. Gu Lingor's boyfriend. Wei couldn't help looking at David, and then smiled coldly. Don't think that Gulinger is a detective, it's amazing, she's not art in front of Lao Tzu, she even such a dusty woman is not as good as. Wei held Lily's chin with one hand, and said to David with disdain. David's eyes narrowed slightly, a chill erupted from his body, and then he kicked out, directly kicking that Wei out. Wow! Wei's body flew several meters away, and then smashed heavily on a table, smashing the table. Ah! Many guests screamed in fright at the sudden change and ran away everywhere. Wei grinned and got up, feeling that his whole body was about to fall apart, and looked at David angrily. Give it to me, kill him. The few people who followed Wei were about to make a move when they heard a biting voice. Who is making trouble in my bar? Do you know who opened this bar? Hearing this voice, Wei's face changed greatly in fright, and the guys who were about to start were so frightened that they hurried back. The young lady named Lily was so frightened that she ran away, and soon disappeared. It's over, it's over, it's over. Gu Feng also turned pale and trembled. Brother-in-law, it's over, this bar is the territory of Chi Fengtang, if you make trouble here, Chi Fengtang will definitely not be lenient. As soon as Gu Feng's words were finished, a middle-aged man wearing a blindfold with only one eye exposed came over, followed by a dozen bar security guards behind the middle-aged man. Seeing this person, Gu Feng was so frightened that he instantly collapsed on the chair, and streams of yellow liquid flowed out of his body. Seeing Gu Feng like that, David was speechless for a while. He didn't know how Gu Wenchen could have such a grandson. Brother Long, it's him. He hit me. Wei walked up to the one-eyed middle-aged man trembling all over, took out a box of Chinese cigarettes, and said flatteringly. Pause. The one-eyed middle-aged man didn't even look at Wei, and said in a cold sweat. Soon, a security guard stepped up from behind, grabbed the collar of Wei, and slapped him. After more than 10 hits in total, Wei's entire face was swollen and swollen. Did you move your hand just now? After hitting my Wei, the one-eyed middle-aged man looked at David and asked. Not bad. David nodded. Zhenjui. The one-eyed middle-aged man snorted again, and the security guard walked towards David. As soon as he raised his hand, David grabbed him. Are you beating people without asking indiscriminately? Seeing that David dared to resist, the one-eyed middle-aged man frowned. Everyone who makes troubles here with my one-eyed dragon hits 50 big boards each, and then asks why. Are you trying to break my rules? I heard that the people of Chi Fengtang are chivalrous and courageous, and the hall owner is called a living Buddha. Is that what you do? At this time, David began to feel disgusted with Chi Fengtang. At first, when Gulinger said it, he had a good impression of this Chi Feng Hall, especially the head of the hall, Chi Feng, whom David admired, but now it seems that it's all just hearsay. Humph, what is my Chi Fengtang? It's your turn to judge. I slap me 10 times, I'm dealing with your fight. The one-eyed dragon snorted coldly. What if I don't fight? David sneered. If you don't do it yourself, then I'll help you. The one-eyed dragon said, and slapped David with a slap. The speed of the one-eyed dragon was so fast that everyone around was so shocked that David was in a cold sweat. Watching the one-eyed dragon make a move, David raised the corner of his mouth and grabbed the one-eyed dragon's wrist as soon as he reached out. I like to reason, why do you have to do it? The one-eyed dragon was startled, and suddenly tried to get rid of David, but found that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break free from David's shackles. Boy, do you know the consequences of doing this with me? One-eyed dragon said angrily. In front of so many people, he was restrained by an inconspicuous young man. How could the one-eyed dragon not get angry? It's obvious that you did it first. Why are you Chi Fengtang still unreasonable? David said helplessly. Tell me about your mother. The other hand of the one-eyed dragon immediately clenched his fist and waved it towards David. David frowned, and murderous aura erupted from his body. He repeatedly forbeared, but he didn't want this one-eyed dragon to go so far. Just when the one-eyed dragon punched out, David kicked it out. Bang! David's kick directly kicked the one-eyed dragon, and this time it flew more than 10 meters before it fell heavily. Seeing that David really dared to follow the one-eyed dragon, Gu Feng was so frightened that he rolled his eyes and almost died. "Boy, you dare to beat Brother Long, now you are dead." When Ni Wei saw that David had hit a one-eyed dragon, he immediately said excitedly. David glanced at that Ni Wei, his eyes were cold, and he was so frightened that Ni Wei didn't dare to speak. At this time, the one-eyed dragon was supported by someone, and there was blood on the corner of his mouth. "Clear the field, close the door." The one-eyed dragon stared at David, and then ordered loudly. Soon, the entire bar was emptied, and even the ancient style was thrown out. In the huge bar, only David was left, and there were dozens of bar security guards. After Gu Feng was thrown out, he got up with trembling legs and ran away without turning his head. At this time, he would no longer recognize any brother-in-law. The one-eyed dragon wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and walked to David with a grim face. "Boy, you are the first person to fight with Lao Tzu. If I don't kill you today, what will my Chifengtang's reputation be?" Chen Jing sat quietly on the chair, took a glass of wine and drank it. His face did not change in the slightest. "If it weren't for Chifengtang's reputation, and your hall master is a hero in women's middle school, do you think there is still a chance to speak in front of me now?" David said with a look of disdain. "Good boy, you are so mad when you are about to die." The one-eyed dragon's face was full of anger. "Kill him to death for me." The one-eyed dragon gave an order, and dozens of security guards rushed towards David with sticks. "Tiny!" David snorted coldly, and his figure suddenly disappeared in place. Immediately after, the one-eyed dragon saw a black shadow shuttling in the crowd, and then came the sound of mourning. After just a few minutes, none of the dozens of security guards were standing, and they all fell to the ground and cried in pain. However, these security guards are not life-threatening, and David is showing mercy. Fgoog! The one-eyed dragon opened its mouth wide enough to fit an egg, and the only remaining eye was full of fear. David slowly walked towards the one-eyed dragon, and the one-eyed dragon kept retreating in fright. He retreated all the way to the wall. The one-eyed dragon had no way to retreat, and he said to David in horror, "You, what do you want to do? I am a member of Chifengtang. If you kill me, our hall master will definitely not will let you go." "Don't be nervous, did I say I want to kill you?" David looked at the nervous look of the one-eyed dragon and couldn't help but smile. "I just need you to call your hall master." The one-eyed dragon was stunned. "What do you want our hall master to do?" "Although our hall master is a living bodhisattva, if you make the shop like this, the hall master will also be angry, and it might kill you. Didn't you just want me to die? Your hall master is here, didn't you just follow your wish?" David was a little strange. How could this one-eyed dragon remind himself? The one-eyed dragon's face instantly became extremely embarrassed, and his eyes dodged. Our hall master is here, I'm afraid he won't be able to spare me." The words of the one-eyed dragon instantly made David understand that the feeling was that this guy was afraid that their hall master would come and trouble him. After all, being so arrogant and domineering, hitting people without questioning indiscriminately, is not like what the legendary Chifengtang did. "Either call your hall master, or die, you choose." David didn't want to talk nonsense with the one-eyed dragon, so he threatened. I call now." In the face of death threats, the one-eyed dragon does not hesitate. The one-eyed dragon took out his mobile phone and could only call the hall master Chifeng.